Good morning. First bit of news is great news, and I want to thank our citizens, our police department for praying for Officer Gibson, who was released from the hospital yesterday and is resting at home with his family. So let's continue to pray. And again, I want to thank those citizens for took part in pulling him and our officers to safety. And we'll get a chance to address them and give appropriate recognition in a few weeks here. But we're here to announce a massive takedown of an organized auto theft ring in our city. And I just want to acknowledge the terrific work of the investigators and the Auto Theft Division and our downtown division. 25 charges were filed. 23 of those individuals were arrested. 2 are still at large, and we have them up here. Most importantly, the ringleader, and he's at the top of this one. Individual known as Max Rodriguez, the leader of this group, is in jail, and he's on bond. His bonds are totaling, I meant to say, $1.5 million. And I want to say, because Lieutenant Tolan is going to speak to the details, but it's important to know this individual has been arrested 30 times at least in his adult life. Through an extensive and thorough investigation, our auto theft detectives determined that Rodriguez headed the operation, which targeted hundreds of high-end vehicles in the Galleria area, the downtown area, and the Heights area. I want to quickly thank again and publicly thank the men and women from Auto Theft Division under the leadership of Commander Hitzman, our downtown division crime suppression units, and some of them are standing with us now. They do the work, and it's important for them to stand, because I want the families to see them when they're away from their families doing hard work. And the chief, I appreciate y'all. Also, Commander Estrada from Downtown Division, thank you, and thank all the men and women for what they do. More details will be given by, again, Lieutenant Tolan, who supervises the Auto Theft Task Force Unit. Lieutenant?
Thank you, Chief.
Give us your name and title, Lieutenant, please.
I'm Lieutenant Tolan Harding. First name spelled T-O-L-A-N. Last name Harding, H-A-R-D-I-N-G. I'm assigned to the Houston Auto Crimes Task Force. The Houston Auto Crimes Task Force is a multi-agency task force that is funded by the Texas Motor Vehicle Crime Prevention Authority, and we focus on motor vehicle crimes in and around the Houston area. Maximiliano Rodriguez, aka Max, was initially identified in April of 2021 as an auto theft suspect. Unfortunately, at that time, we could not affirmatively link him to auto thefts that were occurring in the downtown area. However, in June of 2022, the Auto Crimes Task Force officers identified multiple suspect vehicles that were involved in the theft of high-end vehicles in the downtown area. The Auto Theft Task Force officers, along with the Downtown Crime Suppression Team, began conducting surveillance on those vehicles. And on June 7th of 2022, during a downtown event, task force officers and the Downtown Crime Suppression Team officers observed Max breaking into vehicles, disabling the alarms, and then a second party would actually drive off with the stolen vehicle. At that time, those stolen vehicles and the vehicle Max was driving were stopped, and then Max, along with several other suspects, were arrested and charged with auto theft crimes. Later in the month of June, just several weeks later, June 23rd, Auto Crimes Task Force officers observed Max again with another suspect in possession of a high-end pickup truck that had a fake paper plate on it. It appeared Max and the other suspect were altering the public VIN on the dashboard. When Max and the other suspect left the location in that high-end pickup truck, it was stopped on traffic, and it was determined that the truck was stolen and the public VIN had been altered. And again, Max was charged with an auto theft crime. In July of 2022, several weeks later, Auto Crimes Task Force officers again observed Max and 2 other suspects enter a high-end luxury apartment complex parking lot in downtown. Shortly thereafter, a Jeep Wrangler 392 left the apartment complex, followed by the vehicles that Max and his suspects were driving. Again, those vehicles were stopped. The Jeep Wrangler was determined to be freshly stolen, and two of the other vehicles that Max and his suspects were driving were also determined to be stolen vehicles where the VIN numbers had been altered. After the July 2022 arrest, a search warrant was executed on Max's phone, and it revealed that he was linked to 33 other stolen vehicles from the information on his phone with a value of about $2.7 million. Now, we were only able to go back about 2 or 3 months on his phone because that was all of the data that was on there, but if it linked him to other stolen vehicles. We also were able to seize key programming devices that were used during these auto thefts, and downloads of those key programming devices also revealed Max was involved with multiple car thefts. From December 2022 onward, Max was on house arrest in the evenings and had an ankle monitor. However, Max kept working. Max would drive around during the day looking for additional vehicles to steal. However, at that time, Max would not actually steal these vehicles. He began hiring workers, employing other people to steal these vehicles for him. At the same time, in December of 2022, the Downtown Crime Suppression Team noticed an increase in thefts of high-end vehicles from luxury apartment complexes and parking lots in the downtown area. In combination with the Downtown Crime Suppression Team and the Houston Auto Crimes Task Force, we began conducting regular surveillance on vehicles that had been identified as being involved with those thefts. Over the next several months, the Downtown Crime Suppression Team and the Houston Auto Crimes Task Force made multiple arrests of in-progress crimes of people stealing cars in the downtown Heights and Heights area. When these suspects were interviewed, some of them would give similar stories about Max. They said Max would recruit them, show them how to steal the vehicles, and provide them with the tools to do it. Max would provide them with a work phone, a work car, a programming device, blank keys, and also fake paper plates. Max would then give them specific vehicles to steal. Once the vehicle was stolen, Max would pay them upon delivery of the vehicle. Max would sometimes have his workers on FaceTime as they drove around high-end apartment complexes so that he could direct them to which vehicles he wanted them to steal. While conducting surveillance of Max, Houston Auto Crimes Task Force officers observed him doing dead drops. He would place cash in various items, place them on the side of the road, and leave them there, and then call his workers and say, "Come pick up your money." One of the suspects who was arrested for the in-progress crime, when we downloaded his work cell phone, showed Max putting in specific directions for the type of vehicle he wanted and where to take it afterward. On September 8th, 2023, multiple arrest and search warrants were executed at Max's residence and on the co-defendants and their phones, and Max was again charged with auto theft-related crimes for stolen property valued at approximately $1 million. The Houston Auto Crimes Task Force and the Downtown Crime Suppression Team were able to solve this case through interviews, search warrants, and surveillance. The Auto Crime Task Force detectives believe Max is responsible for at least $10 million worth of stolen vehicles in the Houston area in the past few years. Max has had more than 30 prior arrests, was on 2 separate bonds, and still committing crimes. Now, not all of the vehicles that have been stolen have been recovered. Some of them that have been recovered were sold to innocent purchasers. They didn't know that these vehicles were stolen, and Max victimized these people as well. So Max created 2 different victims for every car he stole. The Houston Auto Crimes Task Force would like to acknowledge the hard work of the Downtown Crime Suppression Team. Without their investigation and their support and their uniform presence, we couldn't have conducted this investigation. And if we have any questions?
All right, but before we do questions, I'm sorry. Thanks, good job, LT and everybody here. Commander Garcia, translating Spanish.
Muy buenos días. Estamos aquí para anunciar el desmantelamiento de una red masiva y organizada de robo de automóviles que operaba en nuestra ciudad y el excelente trabajo de los investigadores de nuestra división de robo de automóviles bajo el liderazgo de la comandante Hitzman y elementos de la división de patrullaje del centro de la ciudad bajo el liderazgo de la comandante Estrada. Como ustedes ven en estos dos, en estas dos demostraciones, hay 25 personas que fueron, se les encontraron culpables del robo de automóviles. 23 de estas personas han sido arrestadas. Se estima que entre todos los robos se calcula que fueron con un valor de $10 millones entre todos los automóviles que fueron robados. El individuo principal que está al punto de la pirámide de esta demostración fue Max Rodríguez. Este individuo ha sido arrestado más de 30 veces. Este individuo inclusive ha tenido un monitor en su tobillo y a pesar de eso siguió usando a otras personas para robar carros para él. El teniente Harding, que estuvo al mando de esta investigación, junto con elementos del equipo del centro de la ciudad, de la división del centro de la ciudad, estuvieron siguiendo a esta persona desde hace varios años. Al principio no hubo suficientes pruebas para meterlo a la cárcel, pero eventualmente tuvieron suficiente evidencia para arrestarlo. Y a pesar de eso, como dije anteriormente, este individuo encontró la manera de seguir robando carros por medio de otros individuos. Por eso tenemos las fotos de todas estas personas que han sido cómplices y han participado en estos robos. No voy a repetir todo lo que dijo el teniente Harding, pero creo que es suficiente decir que esto fue una investigación muy productiva, muy beneficiosa para la ciudad y para los ciudadanos de esta ciudad. Un elemento y una organización de robo de autos ha sido eliminada y le damos las gracias a los esfuerzos de todas las personas involucradas. Muchas gracias.
All right. LT, you can come back up now. We'll entertain a few questions. Thank you.
Sounds like this was going on for a long time. What took so long to get to this point?
The finding the affirmative links between Max and the stolen vehicles. Once you recover a stolen vehicle, you're backtracking. After about Max's second arrest, he was out on bond. He isolated himself by hiring his workers, preying on homeless and drug-addicted people to work for him, and tried to isolate himself. So it became much more difficult to prove that he was involved. It involved multiple interviews, search warrants for electronic devices, surveillance, and follow-up investigation.
From your perspective, looking back on these cars that were stolen and the way they were stolen, is there anything that the average person could have done to prevent their vehicles from being targeted by this ring and ultimately falling into their hands?
Just simple target hardening, crime prevention things. Aftermarket alarms, old-fashioned steering wheel clubs, and aftermarket tracking devices. Those three things would reduce auto thefts.
You talk about the old bar that locks and,
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but my
Oh,
granddad had
old
one.
school stuff still works.
An old-school steering wheel club, yes, we recommend them. They still work, and it makes the suspect go to an easier target.
And those trackers, that's obviously a modern tool that people can use. It obviously doesn't stop the car from being stolen, but it helps you guys.
Yeah, helps us recover it. It can lead to either a drop location where we can catch additional suspects or a chop shop, and it definitely gets your vehicle back. They're widely available in the aftermarket. Amazon, your car stereo stores, not tough to get an aftermarket tracker. Not expensive either. You can spend $50 on the device and $5 a month for the service.
You also mentioned high-end vehicles. Do you have some examples of where they're going after like Corvettes and
Yes.
Mercedes, and then, ignoring the Honda, the Toyota?
High-end GMC pickup trucks, Corvettes, yes. Obviously, I gave one example of a Jeep Wrangler 392. That's one of their specialized models. He liked expensive vehicles.
Anything else?
Would they chop them up, or they sell them to dealerships, or how would it go?
Typically, he would resell these vehicles on Facebook Marketplace or offer up after altering the VIN number on the dash and providing some fake paperwork. He would make it a deal too good to be true, a $60,000 truck for $35,000, and he would sell it to another person for cash.
That's why he said there are 2 victims for
Right.
each stolen vehicle, right?
Yeah.
At which point would these people find out they bought a stolen vehicle?
A lot of times when they take the paperwork and try and get it registered, the tax officer would tell them your paperwork isn't any good, you need to have your vehicle inspected. Law enforcement would step in and look at the vehicle and be able to positively identify it, that the public VIN had been altered and the true identity of the vehicle it was a stolen vehicle.
What happens at that point then? Let's say that now I find out that my car that I bought was stolen. Does HPD come in, or does Auto Task Force, somebody come and physically take possession of my vehicle?
Yes. We would identify the vehicle as stolen property, just like if it was a watch stolen from your house in a burglary. We would take possession of it. If there was a question of ownership, we would have a property hearing on it, but most of the time it's clear that it's a stolen vehicle, that the paperwork you had was fake, and we would return it to the true owner.
And the money?
Lieutenant, I want to say this, I'm sorry.
Sure,
I
no
think it's important that people, in this event of social media and all the computer, you doing things over, find reputable people. Don't buy from people who you don't know, somebody can give you a good reference, okay? Because if these are expensive vehicles, and can you imagine putting up that kind of money and you find out a month later, or when you try to get it registered, or a week later, that you got to turn it in. It's a total loss, so it's a lesson for all of us. But I want to get her in, too. I think you want to add something in Spanish. Yeah, good. Yeah,
¿Cuál
good.
es el
We'll
modo
get you.
operandi de esta banda y
Go.
cuáles son las recomendaciones que puede dar a las personas de Houston para que no caigan en este tipo de robos?
Bueno, como dijo el teniente Harden, estos individuos estaban buscando carros que eran de alto precio, ¿verdad? Pero en realidad lo que le recomendamos al público es de que compren una alarma, que instalen una alarma. Cuando compren su carro, instalen una alarma. También estamos recomendando que usen el aparato que parece como un tubo que protege el volante para que no puedan conducir el vehículo. También hoy en día existen lo que llamaban en inglés un tracker, una cosa que parece como un botón, pero si usted lo instala en su vehículo por medio de su teléfono celular, puede seguir al vehículo a cualquier parte que esté. Eso va a facilitar a las autoridades para recuperar ese vehículo lo más pronto posible.
Podemos repetir también en español los carros que eran target y también, bueno, sabemos que esta investigación desembocó en varias personas, pero ¿siguen alguna línea de otras bandas que también están operando así en la ciudad?
Bueno, desgraciadamente esta es una banda, ¿verdad? Ellos están investigando a más individuos que posiblemente también estén organizados en bandas, pero el tipo de vehículos, como dije anteriormente, como dijo Teniente Harden, eran de todo tipo, inclusive carros como camionetas de alto valor, carros de carreras, como que dicen carros de alto precio, ¿verdad? Cualquier tipo de carro, inclusive carros especializados que son muy limitados en su producción, esos eran lo que estaban buscando ellos también.
Y eran 3 áreas de Houston, en Downtown,
Sí.
The Heights y Galería, ¿verdad?
Exactamente, en el centro de la ciudad, en el área de Galería, donde está el centro comercial, y en el área que se llaman aquí The Heights.
¿Podría repetir nada más otra vez el cuidado, sobre todo cuando uno hace este tipo de compras por medio de Facebook, como estaban diciendo?
Claro que sí. Lo que recomendamos es de que cuando usted vaya a comprar un vehículo, que tenga cuidado de quién lo está comprando. Si no es una persona que está establecida, tiene que tener mucho cuidado. Muchas veces es conveniente que no compre el carro inmediatamente, sino que pida asistencia de las autoridades, y especialmente para saber que está comprando un vehículo que no se ha robado.
O sea, que ellos robaban estos carros y luego los vendían por Facebook, por ejemplo.
Sí,
Ok.
muchos de estos vehículos no los estaban desmantelando y vendiendo las partes, sino que estaban revendiéndolos a personas, y por eso, como dijo anteriormente el teniente, por cada vehículo hubo 2 víctimas. La persona que le robaron el vehículo y la persona a la que le vendieron el vehículo.
My question, you mentioned the bond amount and all that, but how much jail time is he facing? Is he going to be in jail for a while, or?
You know, let me answer that, because I'm back here and I'm thinking about LT. I hope, and really hope, that the entire criminal justice system looks at cases like this. $10 million of vehicles that we know about. What about the vehicles we don't know about? And this is a person who is a predator, okay? And people say we go after violent criminals, but we go after criminals who cause havoc in our city. And he's causing havoc, and he is organized on this. And I'll let the courts do what they do, but hopefully everybody understands that people like this, without a doubt, need to be off our streets and locked up in jail. And I hope that's what happens. But with the respect to everyone has due process, but get that process rolling, and let's do what we need to do as a collective criminal justice entity.
Do you think there's other groups like this out there?
There probably is, and the message to them, keep committing crimes, and our people have stood up and they know how to do it, and we'll be doing another press conference, okay? And we're really serious about targeting those individuals, and we talk about it all the time, but today the public can see a lot of work, and you ask, why it took so long. It's a heck of a lot of work. Thousands of hours of collecting evidence and surveillance and all that, So the message, we're serious about fighting crime in our city. And I'm proud of everybody up here. I really am. All right.
Are these two wanted people part of the ring that you guys are looking for on this picture here?
Yes, they are.
Yes. I'm sorry. Thanks for saying that. Those two, and you might want to talk about it. These are the two individuals who are charged but not arrested.
Yes.
And Lieutenant, you want to encourage people to call Crime Stoppers for these two?
Yes, if anyone has any information on the whereabouts of these two
Step up.
suspects,
Sorry. Yeah.
if anybody has any information on the whereabouts of the two suspects who are charged but are not in custody, please call Crime Stoppers, 713-222-TIPS. You can remain anonymous.
Okay.
And what did these guys do?
They're part of the ring. Yeah, part of this collective ring. Yeah, it's part of it.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Two of his
Yeah.
workers,
Oh, okay, they're
Mhm.
not.
Yeah.
right, Lieutenant?
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah, they were involved in the day-to-day stealing of vehicles.
One more question, and we're gonna get them back. Y'all good? Okay. Thank y'all for being here. Thank you very much. All right.
Take care.